Hey kids, it is time for Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with me, your host, Dr. Michael Lennox. We are coming at you for the week of March 14th through the 21st. Going to be an interesting week. We got the Equinox coming up. We've got Mercury doing some interesting things in changing signs. Little news about Venus and Jupiter. How you been, Zoe, since the freaking crazy new moon led us into this interesting aftermath territory?
I'm great. I'm excited to hear about the equinox because I love a little equinox moment.
Let's get right to it. Before we get to the equinox, let's just talk a little bit about Mars and Venus, because this is the week they actually begin to separate. So if you've been following the podcast week by week over these last couple of months, you know a lot about the story of Mars and Venus hanging out together. I'm not going to reiterate the whole kit and caboodle. If you need a checkup on that, go listen to last week because I overview the entire process. But this is an important week because it's the time when we move out of the powerful way that we get to make choices from a new place based on the process that January and February delivered to us. But by the time this week ends, Venus will be moving at her regular pace, which is faster than Mars, and she will be pulling out ahead of him. So what this means for us is if you look back to late November through the new moon that started off this lunar cycle, we've really been in this powerful moment of being able to choose new behaviors out of the depth of learning that we've been through these last couple of months. It ain't like we don't get to make new choices from here on out. We do. In fact, the way astrology works is that everything we go through changes us permanently. We are permanently changed from what we've just learned. But during the beginning of this week, there's a direct connection between new choices we might make, and that by the time we get towards the end of this week, the incredible, powerful opportunity becomes kind of like regular life again, where we might have to think twice before we make a new choice based on what we learned. So what I want to say to everybody is, keep, well connected to the new, open, vulnerable spaces that you've created in your emotional experience over the last couple of months, so that as you move forward from this point on, you still get to make powerful new choices about how you want love and intimacy and vulnerability to show up in your life. But truly, the heavy lifting is behind us. Mercury does something very interesting this week. Last week, he left Aquarius and entered Pisces. That means that our communication for these couple of weeks is a little bit more befuddled, just in general. We understand that Mercury's not so happy in Pisces. Mercury is all about precision. Pisces is, the land of no precision.
Feelings.
That's right.
Just vibes.
That's right, baby. Just the vibes. So in general, we move through another week where communication will be a little more challenging because precision and clarity is less available. But there's something so yummy happening this week with Mercury moving through Pisces that it's worth mentioning because it hits on the equinox. Even though Mercury is debilitated in this sign, it's not like he shuts off. It's still Mercury. And manifestation requires thinking. We can't create something unless we can generate like a mental equivalent of it.
Right.
One of the advantages of Mercury in Pisces, as you so well pointed out, that it's a feeling mansion, is that it's a marvelous time if you can quiet the excess chatter to allow your thoughts about what you want to create to be wrapped in the feelings you have of desiring it and deserving it. Of course, we're all much better deservers now that we've been through 4 months of hell, thank you, Venus. When Mercury joins with Jupiter in Pisces, we are moving through a profound, explosive opportunity for manifesting our desires. Jupiter is the planet of all manifestation. He loves being in Pisces. Mercury joins up with him at the equinox, creating a profound opportunity to set powerful intentions based on what you desire. Those desires should be more clear, full, rich, and known to you because of the last few months. And as we move through this stunning moment in our solar year of the vernal equinox in the north, we also are being graced with a profound opportunity to set powerful intentions amplified by Pisces and that mansion's capacity to help us create anything we desire.
That feels very exciting.
So on March 20th, the sun will leave the Pisces mansion, move to the 0 degree of Aries, and we are in the northern hemisphere, the vernal, which means spring, equinox. This is the alpha omega of the astrological year because we start the zodiac at 0 degrees of Aries and we finish it at 30 Pisces, and then we begin again.
Right. It's like the start of the astrological year.
Absolutely.
Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's the start of other traditions, sort of lunar new year. It's not just Western astrology that starts now. And even if you think about spring in the northern hemisphere, there isn't anybody who lives up here who doesn't consider the beginning of spring like a kind of beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
It's like people start to go out again, feel warm, hang out.
Yeah. Now, the equinoxes and the solstices are not transits. A transit in astrology reflects a moment when two planets are creating geometry, and we feel that geometry as a wave. And just like you might body surf at the ocean and a wave comes in, a transit is like something you energetically have to ride. A solstice and an equinox is not such an energy that you will ride. It's a marker moment. It tells us that we're at this point of begin again. And why this is so is because the Earth and the sun are in such an alignment that the days and nights are of equal length. And it's time to enjoy the growth of the things we planted at sowing time, though we are not yet at harvest. These equinoxes and solstices told civilization when to do what. So we've been marking our time as human beings with these 4 key moments of Earth-Sun alignment that we certainly know as at the equinoxes, the days and nights are equal. And at the solstices, they're opposite. Of course, when Western astrology was created, there was no Southern Hemisphere that we knew of. Not until white Europeans colonized the Southern Hemisphere did we have to put together this kooky notion of what's happening down there is opposite.
Right.
I'm sure we have some listeners down under, so this is their autumnal equinox. But from the archetypal energy of days and nights, where daytime is the sort of light and nighttime is the shadow, daytime is the masculine principle, nighttime is the feminine principle. The beautiful experience of the equinox, north or south, vernal or autumnal, is this equanimity between how much we spend in light and how much we spend in shadow. For this reason, I always go to the mandala as the perfect ritual for the spring equinox, because it's an outward, symbolic, artistic, creative expression of that sense of wholeness, balance, and completeness that the sun and the earth are doing together, that we, in our little bodies, want to feel connected to as well. By treating the spring equinox in the north as the astrological new year, we get to have this great sense of this balance that we're examining, that we are feeling on our insides, is also connected to this sense of we begin again at this moment. This is why I'm so excited about Mercury and Jupiter conjuncting at the equinox. Because Mercury and Jupiter in a conjunction is a transit. It is a wave of energy that we get to ride. And it's the energy of putting mind and thought and words through the lens of deep feeling into the mechanism of Jupiter's capacity to manifest all our desires, when the earth and the sun are also telling us that we are perfectly whole and complete and balanced between dark and light. We as individuals have a greater sense of love, deserving, and openness in our hearts right now. And we get to mark this powerful moment by also riding a transit wave that allows us to take our desires, turn them into words or ideas, fill those ideas with a felt sense that anything is possible. And now we're talking about cooking with gas this equinox on the 20th this week.
I think it's really beautiful thinking about this explosion of manifestation aligning with the spring and the start of things being born naturally, and the astrological year and many cultures' years starting at the exact same time.
Beautifully put, Zoe. That's it. That's the why of this week, or the how of this week, or the what of this week.
How beautiful.
So, kids, if you want to honor this moment, do anything that reminds you of a sense of wholeness, balance, and completeness. The reason I love the mandala is because it's creative. By the way, kids, creative doesn't mean talented. Like, I can't draw a stick figure, but I can get a plate and a paper and a pencil and make a circle on the page, and then get out my colored pencils and make beautiful, expressive shapes and images that tell me I'm feeling whole, complete, and balanced. And not for nothing, let's just say a little word about the moment on the planet where there really is some darkness rising up in a very visible way through current events right now, that force us to take in the dark and the light. And at a moment when it would be easy to fall into the pit of despair because of world events, the equinox tells us that we are whole and complete even with this alignment of things we might call dark. So when you are considering this moment for yourself personally, make sure that you are appreciating that in this moment when darkness looks like it's rising up as greater, the equinox tells us it is balanced. So we must find that balance within ourselves despite the appearance in the outside world, so that we can hold fast to helping there actually be a sense of balance that more people can feel and tap into. And as I always like to point out, peace for humanity starts with each individual coming to peace within their own hearts. The equinox is a perfect moment to express that. So have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. Today we have a dream about rats.
Oh, like rats.
Like real rats. And I gotta tell you, whenever I think about rats and dreams, I just think about like Ratatouille, not like New York subway rats. I think about cute cartoons.
Well, unfortunately, I may have to bust your cartoon bubble because, of course, rats have a fascinating, medicine. And all animals have medicine, but their hiddenness and their propensity to cause damage and disease make their meaning a little bit darker and shadowy, but still fabulous.
Oh, God. Okay, so our email starts off with a little bit of background and then goes into the dream.
Lovely.
Sarah is emailing in from Portland, Oregon, and the background for this dream is that a month ago she saw a rat on her back fence that had been poisoned and was near death, and it kind of made its way under some plants and disappeared. She felt sad to see it suffering from the poison, and very recently she came across its remains doing yard work. So that's the background, and here's her dream. I'm in a barn, and there's an area underground where it's known that there are rats. There are maybe 3 people with me, as well as a rat expert who's going to help get them out of the barn. He leaves us and goes to another part of the barn where there's an exit and does something that will cause them to go that way and leave the barn. Then he comes back and opens the entrance to the underground area, and everyone runs to the exit area to wait. I stay behind and watch as huge black rats, like a foot long, maybe a dozen of them, come running out single file out of the hole and go directly to the exit area. There's a slight delay, and then one last rat comes running, but veers left away from the exit path and goes to a spot that leads him back underground. When the experts and the other folks come back, the expert says he knows what to do and sets up a mirror on the ground where the rat had veered off. Sure enough, this rat reemerges from the original spot, and when he sees the mirror, goes in the right direction to the exit. I'm interested in your interpretation to help me understand the rat symbolism in this one. I love how you find a deeper meaning in things. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and you're welcome. And let's dive in and see. It's fascinating because, I assume that people listening to this podcast might have thoughts or opinions. Do I hear the dreams before? And I don't. I never hear the dreams before. Zoe does not tell me. I do not read the emails. So it's interesting to me that before I even heard the dream, that I put in front of our listening audience the notion of, even though rats are an animal and therefore they are medicine, they have consciousness that is valuable, because they are hidden, because they live in places that are unsanitary, because they carry disease. They do have a symbolism of shadow material that is below the surface of our consciousness, that if we don't have a willingness to take a look at, could lead us into trouble.
Ooh, I feel like I already know where this dream interpretation is going.
Well, think about it. Like a rat isn't like something that is so hidden that you're never going to see it.
Right.
We see rats. We get the impact of their activity. So they do represent shadowy, hidden material that's destructive, potentially emotionally, psychologically dangerous, but that absolutely needs to be examined. And if you don't look at your shadow, kids, you can't have any real lasting relationship with your light. So I love the fact that there's a waking life experience that put rat in her mind, this rat on the fence that died. One thing that's interesting to me about that is, even if rats are creepy, a dream about rats might feel yucky, their sacredness, even though they have a, I'm air quoting now, negative connotation, or it's just as sacred. Sarah's waking life said, pay attention to this animal, because we're going to use this image in a little bit to help teach you something, Sarah. And then what's her response? It's an emotional response. It's a compassionate response. That tells me that there might be some compassion in Sarah for the shadow material that this dream is kicking up. That even though we do want to kill off, sorta, the stuff that's behind the scenes that needs our attention, that is, unsavory, there's feelings about that. It's not just let's kill the rats. It's more like, oh, wow, I have to grow. I have to mature. So the dream is showing where this growth and maturity is. First of all, we start in a barn. So we're not in a house. We're sort of in an ancillary consciousness of thought that is separate from house. The barn is utilitarian. It's where equipment is stored. It's where the farmer sort of centers their office, right? If a farmer works, the barn is their office. But it's also an animal place, right? It's a place where we're not connecting to our community or our individuality like the house. We're in a place where we get more connected to the earth and what's, organic and natural. There's 3 people and a rat expert. 3 people just means we're in Holy Trinity. Just that idea of the psyche saying, I'm going to put 3 people in this dream because one of them and the other and the third are representing the idea that we create. The rat expert is interesting. He's the aspect of Sarah that's helpful at this time to do the shadow investigation. And he's got all the plans. He knows how to get all of the extraneous rats out. And that's what he does. It's not what I think he intended. I think he intended to get all the rats out, right?
Right.
We assume. Did it work? No. What left? The extra rats, not the one that counted. So I'm going to call all of those rats that easily left the thought forms and the feeling forms in Sarah of shadowy, yucky material that are either already processed or easily excised from her psyche.
I knew it. I knew this was where the interpretation was going.
Yay! It's because you're learning, which I love. So we have to do something extra when we get to the okay, here we are in the real shadow work. The part of you, Sarah, that must be invited to free you up, to leave your consciousness, is ready to leave, but only if you work with the mirror. The mirror and shadow work are brethren. They're not separatable. My mascot for shadow work is Medusa. She represents that the shadow will turn you to stone if you don't work with it. But Perseus couldn't work with Medusa looking directly at her because we can never see our shadow directly. It's not available to be seen. We hold up the mirror. In the Medusa story, it's the mirror of the shield given to him by Athena. But because he has this mirror, he can see the shadow and work with it. Same thing in this dream. The part of Sarah that knows how to do this shadow work profoundly knows that a mirror is what will allow the next level of shadow to go away, to be processed, to be released. And this dream is a perfect example of the waking life then bleeding into the dream life, which is reflecting the overall process that this dreamer is going through at this time.
That is such a great lesson of a dream.
I agree 100%. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.